Mary Lancaster, Jude Knight, and Deb Marlowe. Ladies, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
So we're going to let Mary go first because Mary is old hat at this, and also because her book released first this week. Old hat being a good thing, not a bad thing.
The emphasis on old.
No. We're not emphasis. Skilled, seasoned, as it were. Well, Mary, your book was Burning Embers, and it's the third book, which is the final book in the Last Flames of Alba. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's set in early 13th century Scotland. It starts 50 years after the end of the last book and the previous book in the series. So the heroine of this one is the granddaughter of the hero in the first book. So things are all a bit different, and she's young at the beginning. She's just a child, and she's kind of privileged and sort of adored, but at the same time ignored by most of her family. But she grows up very attached to the local priest's son, who's just a pretty minor character in the order of importance. But they have a sort of special bond, and that they meet up at various points during their lives. And eventually, of course, they fall in love, and they have to cope with all the wars and politics and things that are going on in Scotland, and her family's ambitions and his own ambitions. And yeah, but it's quite an adventure, I hope.
Well, it sounds like it, and I love that we get a jump in time across the series too, so that we actually get to see a big change in the.
Yeah, I think it sort of joins things up a bit, and yeah.
Very cool, very cool. So I know that you have another series that's launching very shortly. That's a Regency this time. Is that right?
Yes. So it's very different. It's back to Regency. It's a bit more light-hearted, probably, but except I suppose that it sets around a duel that takes place. A duel, yes. So, and unfortunately, one of the duelists dies, so the other one is going to be had up for murder, basically. And then he sort of falls in love with the widow of the Duke who dies. So it's all
the tagline for this. I thought you did not cut her very much slack.
Yeah, there's a bit of a problem there. Yeah. So it's all set about how the duel affects various people, the combatants and their seconds, and the doctor who is there, and the family members. So yeah, and then they all finish up sort of on the eve of Waterloo. So they all end up in Brussels, just as all hell's about to break loose. And that's the premise behind it all. And the first book comes out next month, 10th of March.
It was very soon. So, well, cool. So we can do historical Scotland and the Last Flames, and then we can jump ahead to the Duelists. Very cool. Let me see. I think we've lost Mary. I think we've lost Mary's internet. She's frozen. So I'm going to pop her over here. Jude, can you tell us about your book? Yours is the first book in a new series. It's The Lady Beast Bridegroom. I loved the premise for this one, and it's book one in a twisted tale. Twist upon a Regency tale. Twist upon a Regency tale. I always get the words right. I don't always get them in the right order when I do. Putting up the ads and stuff.
I played with so many names that it took me nearly 3 months to actually accept and remember the one that I'd decided on. But the concept was to take traditional fairy tale elements, or traditional elements from a fairy tale, and then reinterpret them in the Regency with no magic, but the same kind of elements played out, but also with the extra twist that my beauty is a man and my beast is a woman, and that will follow through the other books. There are now 4 in the series, and my Lion's Den book, which just went up for pre-order yesterday, is also a reinterpreted fairy tale. So
great. Yeah, I love the idea
5 coming this year.
Yeah.
So so Beau, as he hates to be called, my Peter Ransom is a soldier who's come back from the wars when his father dies. He left because he didn't get on with his stepmother or her daughters. And he comes back to find that his father has fundamentally drunk himself to death and ruined the estate in the process. So he's got 2 half-sisters to look after, a broken down estate, and no doubt, really, especially when the little girls are in trouble and desperately need his help. So his solicitor suggests an arranged marriage to an heiress, who is my beast, Lady Beast, the gossips call her. Ariel was badly damaged in a fire, so badly that she wears a mask to cover half of her face. The same fire took the life of Peter, his mother. So they were childhood friends, but he hasn't seen her since she was a child.
But they have history, so that
they have history. Lady Ariel, my heroine, has a wicked cousin who inherited the estate, but none of the money. So he wants to have her put into an asylum because obviously her terrible burns have driven her insane, and her solicitor, who happens to be the same as Peter's solicitor, suggests that the only way out is to have a husband who can protect her. So that's the premise for the story.
Oh, I love this solicitor. It's like a fairy godmother solicitor.
The solicitor actually plays a fairy godmother role right through various books in the series. So I'm glad someone picked that up.
No, I love the idea of that, and I love the setup for the series and the setup for the story. The idea of taking the magic out of the fairy tale and still leaving the story, like the story structure kind of intact, and then flipping the roles. I think that's just really fascinating. So
I've had some great fun with the different. For example, in my Sleeping Beauty retelling, the hero loves apple pie. And the villain feeds him, who is his stepfather, manages to dress up as an old lady and get a piece of apple pie introduced to the wedding breakfast, laced with strychnine. So I'm hoping that readers will look for those elements when they pop up and recognise them. And I'll tell you that Peter's. My beauty's half sister is called Rose, and one of the reasons he finally accepts this arranged marriage as necessary is because Rose is in trouble. So that's a nod in the direction of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, and I love that. They're almost like Easter eggs, finding like the little bits and pieces of the fairy tales in there. That's
so much fun.
Yeah, that's so much fun. Awesome. And there are 4 books in the series, and then the Lion's Den book as well. Oh, now we've lost Jude. We're not having a friendly internet day, but in our defense, we are all around the world. Well, that sounds like so much fun, and I'm looking forward to that one and the next ones to come afterwards. And so let me pop Deb down here. Deb, you have a book that releases wide, and your book is a little bit more of a historical mystery.
Yeah.
It's Fear and Love It mystery, first book in the series, and it is A Killer in the Crystal Palace, which it's not what you want in the Crystal Palace.
It's my fault, that I'm super excited. Very excited about the Crystal Palace. Actually, the Great Exhibition of 1850 that was put together by Prince Albert, one of the leading scientists, marketing experts, and and it was the first of the World Fairs, the very first one. It was a massive, and
I'm
it was
sorry to stop you,
basically-
but we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Can you move
Oh.
towards your microphone or shift in a
Is this-
direction and see?
Is this better? Can you hear me now better?
It's breaking up a little bit. Go ahead
Let me
and try.
see
Is
what
it
I
just
can
me
do.
or?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Like a little bit here.
Yeah, just
Bit
I think
breaky.
it's breaking up a little bit, but I'm sorry. So you were talking about the Crystal Palace in the World's Fair?
Yes, it's a huge gathering, 5 countries, and art and design elements just showed off, and my two, the hero and the heroine, and it's a Victorian Miss Byrne romance through both exhibitors in the Great Expo Vet, is a very kind of unusual, and she makes automaton clocks.
Oh, cool.
Very, and the hero, works in both math pieces of art or screens, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Bits like very known for his compass rose. So it's much fun. I've just had a ball. Just
So you had fun researching, didn't you?
yes, I love and I've just had all the things that great exhibition into the first store, and plus who doesn't, right? so along with it, so for me it's like, oh, here.
Oh, wonderful. And how many books are in this series?
There's 3 so far. I
Okay.
could keep it going.
And the same hero and heroine follow the way through?
Yes. I don't know if it's, but that is a common, common, in those kind of things. On the Amelia, which is a Victorian who travels to Egypt, and they were first unearthing thing, and she Emerson over there, who's an archaeologist. I think there's 35 books. So I just love idea for the first time with the same characters. I'm very so the thought of really been following these is just making my heart sing.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a chance to really get used to a set of people and to learn more about them as they go along. That's I'm
Yes.
perfectly comfortable with the slow burn. I'm comfortable with the fast burn too, for that matter. But
Plenty of those.
it's good with the slow burn too. So
Yeah.
and I love the idea of like weaving it in around a mystery too. So I get extra things to dig for when I'm reading.
Lots of fun.
That sounds like so much fun.
Starting tomorrow. First book, February 17th.
So the book releases, actually the day this airs, the book releases. And,
okay.
And this book
Today.
today. And this book releases wide. So if you read on Apple, or if you read on Apple Books or Barnes and Noble, on Nook or on any other e-reader, you can pick up your copy right away. You don't want to wait because it won't be wide for very long, just for a couple of days, and then it'll go into Kindle Unlimited.
Right.
So if you're a Kindle Unlimited reader,
yes,
you just have to wait a day or two.
So, great.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. Well, so I could tell from when you were talking how much you liked researching. But since we haven't had a chance to hear from Jude or Deb before, and there are interviews for both of them up on the website. So if you haven't had a chance to look at them yet, you want to sneak over there and grab them, because they took time to answer a handful of questions for us. And Jude sent in, actually both Deb and Jude sent in some really cool pictures. Deb, I think one of yours was from HRR. So I had like HRR flashback envy. So, but you want to make sure you pop over there and do that. But we haven't had a chance to talk about writing before. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit, maybe Jude, you can go first, about whether you plot your stories out ahead of time. I know you're talking about fairy tales, so I know you have a lot of moving pieces. Do you get the characters first? Do you get the plot first? Do you spend a lot of time outlining, or are you mostly just sit down and write and see what happens?
The very first book I wrote, I thought I would be a plotter, because I've spent many years as a commercial writer, and everything was meticulously outlined as a first step, and I never wrote a word until the client had approved the outline. So I sat down and wrote this very detailed outline of the book and all the plot elements, began writing, put the villain into the prologue, and between the prologue and chapter 1, he committed suicide and completely ruined my plot.
Oh, well, that's inconvenient.
Well, he was felt much more guilty about what he'd done than I expected. So I haven't bothered to plot since. I just let the plot elves do what they like, and eventually I managed to tie it all together, and somehow it works out.
Yeah. Well, if they're going to do you like that, that makes a certain amount of sense.
It was not what I expected at all. It was a bit distressing, really. I mean, by the time I'd finished the prologue, I was actually feeling quite sorry for him. So I wasn't surprised, but I was a bit distressed. I mean, all that work.
I think it's hard to explain to people who don't write what it's like to have somebody in your head that you essentially created just do their own, do their own thing without having anything to do with you. It's like
I think I know I've got it right, because you asked if I start with character, and I definitely do. Usually with one character more strongly than the other, and then the hero or heroine becomes that person's match in the plotting. But I know I've got a character right when they refuse to do something that I need them to do for the sake of whatever little strands of plot I've got in my head.
Yeah.
And I've never regretted. That's one thing that happens that derails me constantly. I've generally got a plot 3 or 4 scenes ahead, sort of vaguely in my mind, but I know that anything could change at any moment, which makes it really exciting, because I have to write the book to find out what happens.
Yeah. I often find that that 3/4 part is where it's kind of like, oh, okay, because I know how it ends now. It's like it's a lot easier to have the beginning and the middle pull you through the story, because you're still discovering along with everything else what's going on. So
yeah, I find I reach that point at about 15/16.
It's almost right on time, almost right on the end.
So, but the other thing that happens is that I will stop to research a point, thinking what Deb was saying about research. I'm a research junkie, and sometimes that will derail me. I'll find that either it'll give me a much better idea, like the strychnine and the apple pie. I had no idea that strychnine in certain doses threw you into a coma and that you died because your lungs didn't work.
Oh, yeah. I did not know that until right now either.
I mean, that was brilliant. That was such a gift. Or sometimes it can be an utter disaster, such as finding out that an entire plot line in which my hero of one of my books was going to give evidence against some people and just get them out of the way so he could move on with the major villains instead of the minor. And I found out that it wouldn't work because he wasn't actually the victim of that particular crime. And and therefore he had no status in the courts. Because crime up until the mid-19th century was a private matter, not a public matter.
So he couldn't do what you needed him to do. That's very inconvenient.
So I love it. It makes it exciting.
Well, it sounds like it, and I love that. I love that it's the 15th, 16th kind of thing, because then you get to go be intrigued the whole way through the book. So that makes the writing a lot more fun. Deb, what about you? We talked a little bit of the tiniest bit about research. Do you plot ahead of time, or do you write by the seat of your pants?
So everybody always asks her, right? Do you plot? You fly by the seat of your pants. And answer. Which I think sounds like something Jude operates. A workshop, a writing workshop on Sabrina Jeffries, who is a complete. I need to know certain, like, if I like in the mystery where the mystery is going. I need it. I need way, but I also from one point to the other. Very strange outcome. Honestly, like Judy, in between those points is where where stuff like I had no plan for, but oh my, like you're the whole reason, like exactly what I needed, or I'll be, something will pop up and it's like a gift from, so combination, and that's why I serve. But for me, it always starts with character. Like the most interesting is not that great if you don't love Ernie, right? So I'm in these people's heads. So it's all about character and what they're going to overcome, fight against, what they're fighting against, having them figure out what they actually. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I know. Well, Mary and Jude do. So.
And since we get to see the same characters over and over again, you get to go deeper into character because you're not rediscovering every time the start of someone.
Yes.
You get to go a little bit deeper into who they are.
Yes.
So I think that would be very satisfying as well.
I've been able to, although I've been able to do it with a couple. So
no fun.
A great time.
So Mary, what about you? I know we've done this before, but
you mean my plotting as it is?
Yes, you're plotting.
Well, I have a very big plot that I've got a beginning and I've got an end, and I just sort of wander about until I get to the end. Sometimes, of course, the ending does change a bit, but I think every book is different, actually. I was looking back through my notes, and for some books, I have like 2 pages of notes, and the rest I've just gone off and done it. On others, I've got pages and pages and pages of me trying to work things out and who goes where and why and how that's going to affect everything else. And it's just taken me ages to get to it. And others that just seem to fly by. I think it depends on every book and every character and how they work together.
I wondered if there's a difference when you're talking about the Last Flames of Alba, where you're dealing with the trilogy and a time jump in between, if there's a difference in the way you said about approaching those books versus some of your other books, like the Pleasure Garden books, where you have more interwoven characters interacting with each other in kind of contemporary to them, not contemporary to us.
I suppose a little bit, but I suppose also there's there's much more sort of historical element. There's certain events happened at certain times, and I'm a bit OCD about that. I can't really.
I like that about you. That's like that.
I've got to fit my story around the events. So it doesn't really matter so much of things like the pleasure garden, because it's all basically around about the same time, and there's nothing that's going to get in the way of what my characters are doing at that time. But there are certain battles, certain wars happened at certain times, and certain documents prove that this guy was an earl by such and such a time, so that's when he has to become the earl. But yeah, so that's slightly more complicated, I suppose.
As a reader, that's really important to me, to know that if you tell me that something happened, I mean, I can tell the obvious, these are characters that didn't exist kind of things, but if you're going to put them in context, I want to be able to believe that the context is so, like I want to be able to trust you as the writer to have done the work to show me that, yes, this is not only plausible within the scenario, but that the touch points are where they should be. That may be because I was terrible with history, and this is probably about as much as I get. So I want to know that what I'm getting is actually something I can count on. So, do you find yourself falling down rabbit holes researching too?
Yeah, I think yes, definitely. You can go off and read read an entire book and think, okay, and then suddenly everything sort of goes back the way again. Yeah.
I always thought that it's the idea of having to figure out how people do everything. How they ate, how they dressed, how they moved from place to place. All the bits and pieces. It's like sci-fi world building, but from a historical perspective, because you have to know how all the systems fit together. And I think you could
can't really make it up yourself.
just tons and tons of time figuring out how all of those things fit together. So
yeah.
Unless you're writing fantasy, then you get to
yes.
Historical writers also have the Tiffany effect to deal with. So
I don't know what the Tiffany effect is.
The Tiffany effect is the belief that Tiffany, it's a description of the idea that people have certain rigid concepts about what a particular period in history was like, that are actually wrong.
Well, that's not helpful at all.
Right. Like
the name Tiffany was first used in the 13th century, but people think it's a modern name. So that's why it's called the Tiffany effect.
See, I thought actually it was a modern name. I didn't know it was an old one.
Yeah, and I would totally do that all the time. I would totally get things wrong, because I would assume that they were a certain way.
Yeah. And so it's really important. That's where I have finally, after years of resisting it, started doing author notes.
No, really, before you come at me, this is exactly the way that it went. And here are the citations. Let's save us both some time. And here's where oh, well, I can absolutely see that. So, Jude, we talked a little bit. You've got the next book in this series coming out. You have a Lion's Den book coming out. Are you still writing this series, or how far along in the process are you with the? And I'm not going to tell your editor, so don't worry. I don't.
It's fine. There are 4 books with Dragonblade for publication this year. They're all written.
Oh wow! Oh, I have such empty in my heart. That's fantastic.
And the Lion's Den one. So the Lion's Den one and the Cinderella one, which is the next one, One Dance, is they're both out. One in April, one in May, and they're currently on pre-order. The
I love the cover for the dance one, for the Cinderella one. That one's gorgeous.
They're all gorgeous. They're amazing covers. And then Snowy and the Seven Doves is the story of a boy who was discovered in a slum, badly beaten, and brought up by the 7 prostitutes, the soiled doves, who rescued
I love that.
Brilliant.
And no prizes for guessing which book. He's the guy who gets poisoned by the apple pie. And then the last one is Perchance to Dream, which is Sleeping Beauty, and is also the best friend from the first book as the hero.
Oh, fun.
So, and then my Lion's Den story turned out to be about the brother of the hero of One Perfect Dance. No, not the hero, the best friend in One Perfect Dance. And if I tell you that his heroine is Lady Frogmore, who is living in one room on Pond Street, it'll give you a hint of which fairy tale we're in.
We're kissing princesses.
Yes, it's amazing what a kiss can do.
Oh, those sound like so much fun. I'm looking forward to the whole series.
Oh, look, I've had a ball, and I've proposed 4 more. So, and someone yesterday suggested I tried Jack and the Beanstalk, and by the time I woke up this morning, I had a whole idea in my head of how that might work. So,
Basketball books, aren't they? Boom.
So yeah, all I need is a starting point, and the plot elves go mad. I tell you, being infested with plot elves is not a bad idea.
I was to say, you could send some plot elves to the States if you want. Just feel free.
Yeah, well, some nights I'd be happy to be rid of a few of them because they won't stop chattering.
So, and Deb, we have more Kier Levitt books from you. Obviously, do you know when the next one is coming out?
From the Druid's Grove and Murder on the Mirror August. So, fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to them. I'm a huge Miss Scarlet and the Duke fan.
Yeah.
So I love the idea, and the Veronica Speedwell mysteries. I love all of those too. So the idea of being able to follow the same couple the whole way through and getting to solve mysteries like I actually know how to do any of that is really it's really exciting to me.
I have to give a shout out. The cover is amazing. Just
it's
like
gorgeous.
Jude said, oh my gosh.
Oh, it's just
awful.
Yeah.
I could not be happier.
Yeah. That was one of the ones where when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, and the logo is perfect. Like the series, like the series logo is just it's perfect. It's pitched exactly right. It's lovely.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I was thrilled.
Very cool. And Mary, we already talked a little bit about it, how you made the hero murder the heroine's husband in the next series. So you know,
not quite.
I went to set up the ad for that. I'm like, okay, so the headline of this is going to be, "Can she love the man who killed?" It's like,
of course she can.
No challenger stakes there at all, you know. Wonderful. And that's the first book in a brand new series for you too.
Yes, the duel. Yep, there's Entangled and then Captured, Deserted, and Beloved.
Oh, wonderful. Those are very cool titles.
So the first, I told you about the first one. The second one's about the dead Duke's daughter. Because the dead Duke's not really a very nice guy, and he's
so we don't care so much that he's the dead Duke.
No, he's better off dead, really. So it's a good thing.
That sometimes is the case, you know.
So his children get the chance to blossom a little bit as well, as his son is the hero of the final book. And in the middle there's the Doctor, who's the hero of book 3.
Oh, fun.
And wait, hang on. Am I getting this muddled up? No, he's the hero of
There's something usually
I'm getting them all muddled up.
their own things. I don't feel so bad when I get the series.
I've written 3 of them as well. But anyway, they all get their shot.
Well, there's lots to look forward to, and I'm going to say the same thing that I said every week. Is I saw Kitty go in the background, Jude.
Like she wants to come in the window and she can wait a minute. She'll be sitting there now getting put out.
Well, we won't keep her waiting too long because we've already run over time, but I'm going to say the same thing that I do every week, which is that Dragonblade books are the very best deal, pre-order period and release. You want to grab them right away. And then even the ones that release wide will eventually go into Kindle Unlimited. So if you're a Kindle Unlimited reader, you'll have opportunity to just read your way through all the you don't even have to choose. You can just read all of them. So which is how I'm reading most of the books that I'm reading right now. So ladies, it was delightful to talk to you this week. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Evelyn.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Lovely to meet you, Deb. Hi,
You-
Mary.
You too. You too.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for coming from all over the world, and we will see you back at the same place, same time next week. Thanks.